ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरु वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजात सहगण रघुनाथान्वितां तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश्वर गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। So first of all, please accept my humble obeisances. Today we are on day 5 in this journey of 18 day 18 chapters. We are going to start with chapter 5, which is the action in Krishna consciousness. What is so special about it? Because Krishna has already spoken what is karma yoga, then now why he is exclusively telling about action in Krishna consciousness, why your consciousness has to be always submerged into me, into Krishna. So we will begin with that. Just before, we will take a quick glance on what we tried to cover yesterday. So yesterday was chapter 4, which meant transcendental knowledge. In chapter 3, Krishna told about karma yoga. In chapter 4, he is giving the essence of what that entire transcendental knowledge can be summarized as. So as I told, the brand is very important. Yesterday we were talking about the company, loyalty, branding. How does it create the confidence, faith for that particular brand? Similarly, Krishna starts in chapter 4 yesterday, which we discussed about the history of Bhagavad Gita. So it is not I'm speaking to you first time. You are not my first customer in a sense, right? I have spoken it to since ages because I have given this knowledge since time immemorial. It has always been there, just that I descend as and when I feel that it is not being propagated in the way as it is supposed to be, as I started it. So whenever that chain gets broken, that disciplic succession, although the knowledge comes in that, but it might get distorted due to the time, place, and circumstance. I descend to impart this knowledge to re-establish dharma. We studied the shloka 7, 8, if you remember 4.7, 4.8, where Krishna says, I come for these three things: to annihilate the demons, to re-establish the dharma, to give pleasure to the devotees. So Krishna actually signifies who he is versus who the other people, everybody else, including Brahma, who is the Adi Jiva. All that had been covered in shloka 1 to 10. Then comes the shloka 11 to 24, where we try to understand that does every path lead to the same destination? Meaning to say, either we worship our forefathers, or we worship the demigods, or we worship to Durga, Kali, Shakti, and or we worship as a devotee to Purna Purushottam Lord Shri Krishna. Does it all gives the same result? So the answer was no. We were very clear, right? What do we opt for decides the consequence. It is actually in the material sense also. That's why nothing in this material world can go beyond the jurisdiction of Krishna. That is well understood. If we go to the medical class, we will become a doctor only. We cannot be an engineer. If we go to a if we have opted for commerce subjects, to say for economics and statistics, and so we are progressing on the path of being someone in the maybe the CA or maybe the accountant, those kind of things, right? So all path does not lead to the same destination. The ultimate result will be only one: to attain the Supreme Lord. But if we are progressing or traversing on different paths, it will actually make us go round and round. unless we know what is our end destination. Then there was shloka 4.12, if we remember correctly. Krishna speaks about caste system there. So he says that Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, the four well-known categories actually created by me, but it is not based on just by birth. Only by birth you cannot be classified as Shudra, cannot be classified as Kshatriya or Brahmana. It all comes from three components, which is called your nature, your quality, and what your previous karma had been. So if you have been some, so how do we understand in the today's scenario is those who are more interested in scripture reading, those who are like we call the researchers, we call the scientists in the modern sense, teachers, they are to be classified as brahmana because they are more interested in the study process of it, right? They are more delving down to the point where they can extract out something useful for rest of the people just to follow. Like some people derive, experiment, innovate some kind of formula, and then the others use it. So that is called the Brahman, the scientist category, the researcher, the teachers. And who is Kshatriya? Kshatriya by quality, nature, and your previous karma is someone who likes to administer, who likes to take care of the things, who likes to take care of the people, and they have that valor component very prominent in their nature. So even if they are in the forest and somebody goes and asks for the help, they will come out and they will do that. So that is called Kshatriya. Then Vaishyas are in today's, so our defense personals, we can say our ministers, our in whatever democratic or whatever systems we are, those who are ruling the nation or a particular place, to say for, they are to be categorized as a Kshatriya. Then Vaishyas are our entrepreneurs, our businessmen, our working class people who are trying to produce the products. They are called the Vaishyas, the entrepreneur, Vaishya. And then last one is the Shudra. So Shudra is someone who is serving, who is involved in the regular occupational duties. So like when we study the basic economics, we have said that banking sector is a service sector. So all those who are serving people based on their new, they are not producing, they are not maintaining. What they are doing is they are trying to give us their services. So no wonder Srila Prabhupada has said that in Kali Yuga, actually everyone is Shudra, because even the education, even the innovation, everything has been commercialized in that sense. Then all kind of defense system is to say for is meant for serving the people. So the when we really dig it down the category for Kali Yuga, when Srila Prabhupada is saying that nobody is Brahman, nobody is Kshatri, nobody is Vaishya, everybody is Shudra, everybody is serving, everybody is serving. Basically, what he wanted to emphasize is he wanted to emphasize the fact that when we are in the mood of serving, it will be easy for us to reach to our destination. Then we will have less confusion. Either we will be serving the Lord or we will be serving our senses. So this will make the entire matter less complicated. So he said, everybody is Shudra. Just serve Lordship. Just do the karma for the pleasure of God. And why, how we do that, that is what is going to be discussed today. So we go further actually quickly for a quick summary for your studies. Then Shlok 25 to 33. Krishna told that since all path doesn't lead to the same destination, he told that karmis, where does karmi go? They go to the different planets, right? Where does Brahmavadis go? They go and submerge in the Lord's that Prakash Stotra, you can call it that effulgence comes out of the Lord's body, like the sun rays we talked about. And then similarly, he said after everything, he said yogis, they attain the mystic powers, and devotees go back to the Golok. They go to the eternal place where they are consistently involved in the service of the. They can see that magnificent features of Sachidanand, whom we call as theoretically Sachidanand. They can go there, see the pastimes, see the activities, take part into that. And from Shloka 34 to 42, Krishna is giving that those symptoms of success. Who can understand and who is not able to understand this knowledge of transcendental um, importance which Krishna is imparting to the Arjuna. We had also seen there in the chapter 4 in the last few So Krishna has said in the last that just by having a book you might not succeed. You will only succeed when you understand this knowledge through the proper proper source, proper authority. Basically, the point from where the chapter 4 started. So today we will study chapter 5, action in Krishna consciousness. So we may feel it right before going to the chapter itself. I'll share the screen. Just a second. Yeah. So we are going to study the chapter 5, action in Krishna consciousness. And in brief, we will just take a glance that how the shlokas can be categorized together just to get one common message out of it. Shloka 1 is sannyas or karma yoga. Sannyas or karma yoga. Shloka 1 is sannyas or karma yoga because Arjuna is going to be confused again. Then shloka 2 to 6 is karma yoga is equal to but easier than sannyasa. This will actually be spoken by Krishna. He will explain why sannyas is it sannyas slash karma yoga or sannyas and karma yoga or sannyas or karma yoga as we will come to know today. Then Shlok 7 to 16 talks about how to perform karma yoga, nishkam karma yoga that frees one from bondage. And Shloka 17 to 29 is liberation by focusing on Supreme. So without delay, let's go quickly where Shlok 1 is what Arjuna is speaking to Krishna. What he's saying, Krishna is standing and transcendental knowledge has been imparted, but then Arjuna comes with his question. What is the question? Arjuna uvacha sannyasam karmanam Krishna punaryogam cha shanshasi yashreya etayorekam tanme bruhi sunishitam. Arjuna said, "O Krishna, first of all you ask me to renounce work and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial?" So Arjuna is actually asking just like us because in chapter 2 Krishna told Arjuna that knowledge is great, knowledge is great, atma siddhi, atmaram person. So Krishna, after Krishna says this, Arjuna thinks, oh, it means that knowledge is best. Then Krishna reminds him, no, knowledge is okay, that is just the dry speculation. Make it vijnana, do the practical implication of this knowledge, meaning do the karma. Then in chapter 4 Krishna imparts divya jnana, uh, meaning to say he's trying to bring all the existence of human being, who created, what created, why, how is the mindset, everything. Then he thinks, oh, it means renounce everything, that is the best that to attain. So again when chapter 4 ends, what does Krishna say? Krishna is saying, tasmad jnana sambhutam yasam jnana sinatmana shitvanam sanshayam yogam atichtotishta bharata. He says, uttishta, get up and fight, but do it by dedicating to me. So he's confused. He's saying, should I renounce or should I act? What is beneficial for me? Please tell me. So what happens? Now Bhagwan speaks. What does he say? Shri Bhagwan Vacha Sannyasa Karma Yogascha Nishreya Sakaravabha Tayostu Karma Sannyasat Karma Yogo Vishishyate. The personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion. So we need to be careful about these two words. Renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. So they are equal. But of the two, work in devotion service is better than renunciation of work. So when Krishna says that renunciation and action in Krishna consciousness, work in devotion, both are same, he cautiously uses the word that devotional service is better than renunciation of work. And that is what is going to be the meaning of the extract of entire chapter. Why work in devotion is better than renunciation of work. So we will come to know about this. There is actually a very distinct difference if we go by the words itself. When we do work in devotion, what happens? We are actually behaving normal as it is. Mind wants to ask us to go somewhere. The tongue wants to explore certain taste. The body wants to enjoy certain environment. And at the same time, we want to attain Lord by being happy as well. So if we see these two tables, the left side is work and devotion, the right side is how renunciation replies or addresses these bodily urges. So when we work in devotion, it allows us to act in eternal position, the way the soul is, right? Since the body is being ruled by governed by the soul, so soul will be active. So whatever soul wants to do, a person who is working in devotion, it will engage its senses. But in what mood? It will be in complete renunciation automatically, because it will dedicate all its karma to Supreme Lord to attain that. And why? Because we will come to know today that when we work, it is actually for the purification of our heart. It is not for anybody else. Krishna is going to speak to Arjuna and to remind all of us that how whatever we work is actually for our own purification of the heart, for our own purification of the senses. However, being on the opposite side, right side, if we can see the renunciation part, soul is active, but we are saying don't do anything, right? So that position is very difficult to maintain. Then if we are not doing anything and we are still thinking, contemplating, I mean, we are not doing in our action, but in our dream, in our thought process, that action which is not being done is still there to be done and to get the result of it, to enjoy it. So that is the incomplete renunciation. Senses are negated, senses are not engaged, it is negated. And what happens is we actually do not attain that stage which it is supposed to be the ultimate result of the renunciation. That's why we have to take a lot of births, and we do not know up to when, until when. So that's why Krishna will say that out of the two, working in devotion is better than the pure renunciation. Why? Slok 6, he summarizes the chart which we just saw. He's saying, Sanyasastu mahabaho dukham aptuma yogata yoga yukto munir brahma na chirenadhikakshati. Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. Very, very powerful example, if all of us wants to think about, is who? None other than the literary incarnation of the Lord himself, Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva has written all the Vedas. Actually, he has written the very first Veda was Yajurved. Then he classified it into the four parts: Rig Ved, Atharvaved, Samved, Yajurved. So for the welfare of the mankind, he classified it into the four parts. Then on top of that, he engaged himself and some other disciples to make the further expansion of the knowledge of Vedas. He made Brahman, Aranya, Puran, Samhita, and in the end, it ended to the Vedanta Sutra, Brahma Sutra. Did it make him happy? No. The scriptures say that he was sitting on the bank side. He was sitting in Badrikashram, in his hermitage, in his place, right? And he was contemplating. After writing everything what is to be known by anybody else, to be in this material world successfully, I have composed everything, but I'm not happy. Why is that? That innate happiness, that inherent uh, peace, I'm not able to attain. And then he seeks the advice from his spiritual master. So, who is the spiritual master of Vyasadeva? It's none other than our Narad Muni, the first astronaut of all the universes. Not only this universe, but of all the universes. So he seeks the help from Narad Muni. And what does Narad Muni say? Narad Muni say, you have not composed the glory of the Lord in the words, in the rhythm, in the way that it is to be understood by the people in general. You are saying all the magnificent part of it, but you are not saying the story part, where the soul can connect with the super soul. That which has to be the natural, inherent, to be received by the senses, that you have to compose, and that gives the Srimad Bhagavatam. So what we are trying to establish here, not we are not trying, what acharyas are trying us to understand and trying to explain in very easy manner is, if the senses are there, they needs to be engaged, in the way that they feel connected. So having a body, we have a body, we have attained it. Having a body and then saying we won't do anything is not possible. If we won't do by our outer senses, our inner senses will compel us to do that. Man, our mind, our intelligence, our thought process, action, it needs to be done. So that's why Krishna is saying, although renunciation is okay, but it is not a natural process to attain the supreme personality of Godhead through renunciation, because it can bewilder you at any point of time. Your mind is not purified, your heart is not in place of the thought of giving the complete surrender to all your actions. That's why engage yourself with work in devotion attitude, which is called action in Krishna consciousness. So that's why in Shloka 6, Krishna emphasizes that work in devotion is preferred, because it will give you the eternal peace. So this is actually a summary by one of our acharya in the congregation. He has given the list of certain shlokas, and then how renunciation versus work in devotion works. So he really directly has cited from shlokas of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. In 5.2, Krishna is saying simply jnana is insufficient for liberation. So action must be done. So if action has to be done, that action has to be in devotion. Then he also Krishna is cautioning us that risk of fall down is there, because if you won't be able to reach to that height, in fact, you won't progress at all. That's why action has to be done in the surrender, complete surrender of at the lotus feet of Guru, who gives the complete surrender, gives the sense to do the complete surrender at the lotus feet of Lordship in the end. So that's why find the root, which is Vishnu, and then in devotion we will be able to water the root. So the seemingly the result may be same, but to attain that result, the process has to be different, because we need to go through the most practical way. So this is how it has been listed down, that it may take many births, it may give you no happiness, and it is asking you artificially detached from the matter. However, when you see right side, work in devotion, it brings happiness, you become attached to the Krishna, senses are engaged, so perform multiple devotional activities. We know Navada Bhakti. Then don't study the Sankhya philosophy, just being, matter is different, spirit is different. Study Srimad Bhagavatam, because the stories connect us anywhere. Even in the modern world, if we go for anything, people likes to hear stories in your job, in your anywhere. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the compilation of the stories. Of what stories? The stories which devotees um, have stated, or their own stories, how they attain the Lord. So that glorious stories are there. So what it will do, it by doing this multiple engagements in devotional service, it will bring us to the platform where we will be able to understand that what this life is meant for, life after life. So Shloka 7. So this was a quick summary actually for the teachings which Krishna is trying to impart Arjuna, and through Arjuna to all of us learn and implement. So Shloka 7 says, Yoga yukto vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriya sarvabhutatma sarvabhutatma bhutatma kurvannapi na lipyate. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul, and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. So it is a very meaningful thing. But Shlok 8 and 9 clarifies what Krishna says in 7. So he's saying, when he says his mind and senses is dear to everyone in Shloka 7, he clarifies it in Shloka 8 and 9. What does he say? The one who is in divine consciousness, although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving out, sleeping, and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while sleeping, speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects, and that he is aloof from them. What he says, नैव किंचित करोमीति युक्तो मन्येत तत्त्ववेत् पश्यन् watching, शृण्वन् listening, sparshan, jigran, ashnan, eating, breathing, all the activities. What happens is pralapan, visrijan, grihan, unmishan, all these activities he can clearly see. The Lord says that he is clearly able to see, I am not this material body, I am soul. part and parcel of Supreme Lord, and I have to render service unto him. Therefore, it is important for me to work in a detached spirit. So after listing down all the qualities, what Krishna is trying us to understand is, when you attain the mood of action in Krishna consciousness, you attain that consciousness, what happens is you understand and can answer the four very important questions we always are taught in school or college or in office or project work or at home or in any planning, that first ask who, what, how, these kind of things, right? So who are you? Once we are very fixed in the Krishna consciousness actions, I am a servant of Lord. What work do you do? I do the work allotted by Lord. How do you do the work? I work hard with sincerity, dedication, and to best to the my ability, right? Why? And why I do that? Because later Krishna, when lists down the qualities of the good person, he mentions that one who tries to be a devotee attains all good qualities. That's why best to my ability I will execute it, because I represent the devotee who is very dear to Lord. So if something which is very dear to Lord must be very great, right? In that sense also we have to understand that all my actions should be done to the best of the ability given to me by Krishna. And what to do with the results? I hand it over to God. I hand it over to Krishna, because I know He is the cause of all causes. So, Shlok 7 to 9, 10 to 12, I have just thought that rather than just saying the philosophy, we try to inculcate some examples, try to inculcate the learnings through some of the examples, so that we never ever forget that what has happened to them and how did they implement the Krishna consciousness at the time of need. So if you see the picture here, it is actually our Yudhishthir Maharaj, and it is our Yaksha. So there comes a story that when they were in the forest, the Pandavas were in the forest, there happens a time when they walked for very long and they couldn't find any water reservoir, the place to drink water, and they were very tired, thirsty. So what happens is, one by one, they go to the four different directions, and then ultimately what happens, they reach to the place. When they try to drink the water, the Yaksha appears and then say, you need to answer my questions. Then the Pandavas, except Yudhishthira, try to uh, avoid that voice, and they just started drinking. And one by one, all four of them felt unconscious. So Yudhishthira got very worried. What happened? It's been a long time, all four didn't come back, something must be wrong. So when he reached to the water reservoir, he finds out that four brothers are lying there. And then he thought, okay, let me take some water and spread upon them, so that I can revive them, because he could see that they were just unconscious. So the moment he went to the water side, he could hear the sound of this Yaksha. And then Yaksha asked him that, you need to answer certain questions. So this is an entire chapter, actually, a couple of very interesting questions, a list of questions which Yaksha asks to Yudhishthira, and Yudhishthira replies them. So some of them, like, what is the most astonishing fact in this material world? This question is very famous, actually. It has been circulated through so many WhatsApp and posts and everywhere. What is the most astonishing thing you find in this world is? And then Yudhishthira replies that, I see the people are dying every day, but still they think that they are not going to die. Why? Because the way they behave, the way they are so much engrossed materially to accumulate this material wealth, or to accumulate whatever material fame, or getting into so much tension with people among people, society among society. All of it is actually bewilders me to think that how come people are not able to realize that all of this will remain here in this material world. Everybody dying every day is not able to take any of it back. So this is actually called one of the interesting question. But what is the outcome is very much eye opener for us to understand the mood of someone who act in Krishna conscious, with the Krishna consciousness attitude. So when Yaksha is very pleased with all the questions which he asked, and Yudhishthira replied, he said, I am very happy with you. I want to give you some benediction. Ask something. I can make one of your brother alive again. And then Yudhishthira says, okay, do either of Nakul or Sahadev. This is what makes Yaksha surprised. He said, "You didn't ask for Arjuna, you didn't ask for Bhima, you're asking for Nakul or Sahadev. Apparently, they are less powerful. They are, they. In any comparison, I mean, it's not comparison between brother versus brother, but you were saying that you could have asked for Arjuna or Bhim. Why are you asking for Nakul and Sahadev or Sahadev?" So Yudhishthira replies, my father had two wives. I had two mothers, and from one, Kunti, I am alive. So from Madri, the second wife of my father, I want to have one son, so that my father can feel good about it, right? Whoever, wherever he is. So this shows the action in Krishna consciousness. He was not bewildered with the immediate sense gratification, that blessing uh, which could have kind of confused him, for his protection, because he was comparatively, Bhima and Arjuna was any given day better than Nakul and Sahadev in terms of protecting. But he says only dharma protects one. Only what I um, will execute in my action will take care of me. Nobody else can protect me. So this mood of Yudhishthira confirms and gives us a glimpse in the life of a devotee who is Krishna conscious. So that's why in Shloka 7, 9, 12, Krishna will keep explaining Arjuna. Krishna will tell that Arjuna, you should be very clear that it is dharma who is going to protect you. And what is dharma? The innate dharma of a human being is to serve the Lord. Like the dharma of sugar is always sweet, whether you buy it from a shop, from a mall, whether you buy it in Singapore, India, Australia, America, anywhere. When you say sugar, it has to be sweet. When you say salt, it will be salty in nature, right? Similarly, when you say the existence of human life, it is meant to serve. It is meant to serve. That's why Krishna says the action devotion should be done in devotion. So there's a shloka which is will move further, but there's a shloka number 12 which says yukta karma phalam tiktva shaktimapnoti nashtikim ayukta kamarena phale sakto nibadhyate. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. So, who didn't become entangled here is Yudhishthira. He didn't become greedy. He placed dharma in place. He placed that consciousness. We have King Ambrish and Durvasha. We have Rishabdev. We have Rantidev. Rantidev was with his entire family. He was hungry for 49 days. But when the food arrives and Dharmaraj and the demigods appear to take to examine the mood, the nature of Rantideva, because he had been a king. So when food arrived, from somewhere they got the food. But when these demigods arrived and asked for the part of that food, Rantidev did not hesitate. He just gave it because the dharma, that intelligence was in place, that mind was steady, the body uh, having the position of a king, because he has just given everything in charity, and then he was hungry for so many days, but still he placed the food in front of the demigods who asked for it. Similarly, our King Ambrish and Durvasha. King Ambrish had no fault at all. He has completed the Ekadashi. He was going to take water. Durvasha Rishi comes with his disciples and say that we want to have prasadam at your place. We are just going to take bath, and once we come back, then we will honor prasadam. So King Ambrish thought, um, when it was delayed by Durvasha and his disciples, he thought, okay, maybe and he did that by based on the instructions given by all the acharyas, brahmanas present there, that okay, too, you should break the fast because the time is getting over, the murat is about to finish. So just take the water droplets, the charnamrit part of it, and then when rishis and disciples come back, you can offer food to them, and then you can take after them. This is what Amrish did. But then Durvacha tried to chastise him, tried to kill him. What happened? Did Amrish lose composure? No. But who protected Amrish? Sudarshan Chakra. Lord has to send the Sudarshan Chakra, right? So Rishabdev is another example. He was asking the mankind. He's our one of the incarnation, partial incarnation. It comes into that. in Shakti Avatar of Lord Rishabdev name comes. So what happens is he gives that real knowledge that to consume everything materially is not the nature of the human being. We should reach to the consciousness where all our work should be in the mood of devotion. So this is kind of a summary of these shlokas. I have already spoken for 5.12, but uh, the 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 part which Krishna is trying to impart and to enlighten Arjuna is, although sannyasa, renunciation, and work in devotion gives the same result, but in the practical execution, because we have attained the body, we will attain certain positions based on that bodily bondage in that given lifetime. We should be dedicating our action in devotion. By separating ourselves out of the action is not the practical thing. So what we can do is mentally renounce all action, because Krishna anyway is saying that dedicate it to me. Then what will happen? You can reside happily. You can happily reside. You will not be the victim of that karma. So after that, Krishna goes further. These are just some of the example when people, because a picture speaks louder than words. So we thought to have certain action, certain activities, certain engagement. So what is it mainly we do in a day? We want to go for our occupational duties, we want to cook, we want to have some source of services. So you can see all these devotees, some of the faces you see are very well known in their field actually. And still our Srila Prabhupada is here. He used to cut the vegetables, cook the food for devotees when he started the Krishna conscious movement in the West. He was doing everything by himself. Slowly the congregation grew and he got the help from the disciples, from the people walking by. But the end point to take away for all of us is that it is possible to do the work in devotion, just that it needs more steady mind, it needs more association of devotees, it needs the consistent study of the scriptures, the teachings of Lord, which he has given in Bhagavad Gita itself. So while doing all our occupational duties, the regular duties, the daily routine, it is possible to work in devotion, and it is far more easier than just going to a forest in a dark, I mean, where the basic necessities will be missing. It will be very easy for us to get confused, bewildered, and delude from that path of renunciation. So we should try to fix ourselves work in devotion, because that is very much practical compared to renunciation. Then comes the next part of this section, where uh, the thing is Arjuna wants to probably ask or may ask. So even before he does that, Krishna is trying to answer. Krishna, where Arjuna may ask, like, how to be detached from action when you are saying that everything is being you just dedicate everything to me, and everything by being in the Krishna consciousness will help me to detach. Can you explain me the nature of the task one wants to do? Why we in the first place want to do certain task? Then it will probably make clear to me that this is why I should detach. So what Krishna will explain Arjuna is something we all need to know. Many times people ask the question, what is my nature? How should I know that what work is supposed to be done by me? How do I discard the work? How to be selective, how to be objective. So Krishna will explain here three concepts: the concept of atma, the concept of nature, and the concept of Lord himself. So we had understood the jiva and Ishvara in chapter 2, but what Krishna is saying is, in terms of the action allocated to a person, is it given by the Lord? Is Lord actually controlling our action? Is it true or false? Or if not, is he helping us in those actions? Yes or no? If no, then who is the supporting element, who is the main sanctioning unit, and who is the one deciding for karma, who is doing the action, who selects the karma basically? So basically 3 points there: who selects the karma, who choose, how we ask how we choose. So let's figure out who chooses karma, then who helps, and then who gives the result. And if the result is coming through, we usually have those algorithm, yes, no, check, bar, arrow, down, up, that flow chart kind of thing. So that flow chart we are going to understand while uh, developing our understanding for action in Krishna consciousness. So this will start from shloka 13. So the first question comes is, who is the real doer? Who actually wants to do? The shloka, I haven't given the shloka, but I can recite it for all of us. Na kartritvam na karmani lokasya srajati prabhu na karma phal sanyogam swabhavastu pravartate. So conditioned soul, the soul residing in our heart, thinks that he is the complete doer of his action, but he is not. He is simply a witness of his activities. So it signifies that it's not the person. So we may desire, but we are not the controller. How we desire is based on the Atma residing in our heart. Over the time and generations and life after life, we have taken many births. So when the nature imposes something, we think of certain action. But does it just uh, stop there? Does it stop there? No. Who is responsible for the action? Krishna is not responsible. We know this proverb, man proposes, God disposes. So what happens comes the right side. If you can see this thing here, soul desires. We all are the partial expansion, right? We are parts and parcel of Krishna. So using our free will, we can desire for the things. This would have been our choice whether we want to take part in this session or not, or maybe we give the priority to some other task and we will do it later, we will hear it later. We may desire that. So using our free will, we desire things, we desire. So desire is still okay, right? Now we are clear, desires come through our own desire is our own act. We can understand it this way. But who sanctions it? It is the super soul, the Paramatma. Super soul sanctions it. Based on what? Based on the algorithm of our karmic credit and material nature. So we said the Bhagavad Gita comprises of five topics, right? Ishvara, Jiva, Kala, Prakriti, Karma. Prakriti is the nature, Karma is our karma. We came to know about karma yesterday. Akarma, Vikarma, and Sakam karma. So which is called normally karma also. So material nature carries it out. So Atma is soul is desiring. Super soul is sanctioning based on our karmic credit, whether I can get it or not. And who is the supporting element who supports it is the nature. What nature? Satogun, Rajogun, and Tamogun. So that's why next time when we have to analyze any action, any result, we should remember this triangle. So Ishvara, Jiva, and Prakriti are, we can say, the 3 points, right? They are trying to make the equilibrium here. So Jiva is desiring. Ishvara, based on our karma credit, either sanctions or either sanctions. You can hear Hare Krishna. Either sanctions the orders, and what happens is the Prakriti, the nature, helps us to perform that action. So outcome will be, sometimes it will be accepted. I mean, whatever we desired, it will be given, sanctioned. That's why it is said that when our plan coincides with Krishna's plan, then we get the success. Sometimes it may not happen. We may get rejected. So Jiva desired, Ishvara rejected. So there is no concept of nature here itself, because it is rejected based on our karma credit. How does it happen? Sometimes we have a credit card, right? And sometimes we swipe it out. So we swipe it out, and after a time there is no money. So however time we try to put in the ATM slot, right? Money won't come out. Or we want to pay anywhere, it will get the order is cancelled, right? It is discarded, not authorized. Why? Because there is no karma credit. So when we say good karma, bad karma, that credit part comes. So we know examples, lot of examples actually, but theoretically this concept should be very clear first. Jiva, soul, is desiring. Super soul, based on our karma credit, is discarding. So that discard or accept part comes through the nature, through the Satogun, Rajogun, or Tamogun. I want to become an engineer, right? This is my desire. Then if my karma supports it, so Krishna will allow nature to help me. I will get those books, I will get those kind of details, I will get the help from family, I will get the financial assistance, I will get that kind of intelligence because it has been sanctioned by Krishna. And the result will also be according to my plan. So because that my plan has been taken over by Krishna's plan, it will happen. But suppose I desire something, but my karma credits doesn't support it. So what will happen is Krishna will discard it. So howsoever resourcing elements will be there to support, if Krishna doesn't want it, it won't happen. But Krishna doesn't do it out of nowhere. It is done based on our karma credit. So that's why karma is very, very important. Renunciation cuts that line of karma, but work in devotion helps us to dovetail all our karma to one unified goal, that is to attain the supreme. And when it is done, it is said that nothing can ever bewilder. Nothing can ever bewilder us. So we will move to the shloka 17, which is तद्बुद्धया तत् आत्मान तत्निष्ठा तत्परायण गच्छन्त्य अपुनः आवृत्तिं ज्ञाननिर्धूतकल्मषः. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuse are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. On which path? On the path of liberation. What happens? Intelligence, mind, faith, and refuse are all fixed. These four has to be fixed before attaining. So Krishna doesn't stop here. Krishna goes to some subsequent verses to explain it in detail. In 5:18, he will say, so the humble says is, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentleman Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater, all outcast or caste or great or poor soul. Krishna can see that they are coming. Devotee can see that it is coming through Krishna. So, whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity, they only can already conquer this condition. They will not be, they will not be confused by the material happiness or distress, because these kind of people who have their consciousness fixed, they can realize that material sense pleasure is actually just a flickering attainment of false happiness. This will be very, very clear to them always. We should never ever get bewildered by mere concept of renunciation or complete sense enjoyment, just the extreme of two, right? Either we say we will renounce, or either we will say that we are completely occupied. We need to align these two has to come to a balance, to a point where we will be doing the action, we will be detached from the result of action. We will be doing the action, but we will not take the credit of it. Then people ask this question, which is very, very obvious. Then what is the motivation for us? You are saying do karma, but do not attach with the result. I agree. I am convinced actually. But then what is my motivation? The motivation is purification of heart. If Krishna has to get something done, he can get it done through anyone. We, me, anybody else, doesn't matter to him. He is the cause of all causes. So it is okay for him. What and how it specifically benefits to us is our purification of heart. We will be clear while doing that task that, oh, Krishna chose this to be done by me. It means that he is the ultimate controller. So when we understand that position, when we understand ourselves in the servant position, then we can be purified. If we think I am this, I am that, then we are not purified. We are simply given the opportunities to help others by God to improve ourselves. So there are actually some very famous theories, philosophies into the material world in the management courses, re-engineering, or we say in product innovation it is called disruption. So what happens is the one who is not good in their field, that person while training is coupled with the one who is very successful. So for the successful person, the unsuccessful one is a case study. So he will take that unsuccessful person along with him while molding all his activities for him to showcase that how you can succeed. So this is called re-engineering, disruption. Krishna is saying the devotee in devotion, when executes the work, it is a clear sign for the devotee to understand that how God has given me this chance to approve myself, right? To improve myself. A successful person, through the unsuccessful person's profile, can understand that what is it which he or she is not doing right, and that will help him to figure it out, that how it can be done better way. So the chapter continues actually, and from shlok 22. Okay, let me share also. From shloka 22 to 26, there are very beautiful shlokas. They can just be used as a formula, like shortcuts. Krishna gives the example of those kind of personalities. Srila Prabhupada writes as examples for those kind of personalities who have attained this knowledge. What knowledge? That all life should be regulated in a way that it is free from the anger, it is free from material desires. That self-realization piece, which we discussed in chapter 3 and 4, needs to be in the place now. And we should endeavor for perfection, assured of the liberation, but to attain the lordship in the near future. Meaning that we should get out of any kind of dualities, we should get out of any kind of doubts, we should fix our mind and engage our senses, working for the welfare of all human beings. It is simple, right? It is not that difficult. When we say that it is not difficult, is because we will be doing it, and by giving only we will feel satisfied. So many a times, if the most naughty child in the class, teacher appoints him or her as the monitor. Why? Because while correcting them, you will actually check your own behavior. This is what Krishna is telling. Why? While doing all these duties, you will be very, very careful that yes, this is not for me, this is for Krishna. And that's why your in senses will not make you puffed up. So this is very simple actually, just a different way of saying. What we are saying is the senses will still be working. While doing work in devotion dedicated to Krishna, the senses will have the senses. They will have that chetna, consciousness that yes, this is not for me. That the monitor will behave properly, howsoever naughty he is. So senses will not go untimely, I will say uncontrolled. Why? Because they know that oh, this is not for me. This is for the Lord. And we coming back to those examples again. Sorry, those questions again. After getting this glimpse, it will be clearer that the entire arrangement is for our purification. So that will help us to get rid of any kind of ego, any kind of egoistic mindset. We are servant of Lord, we are doing the work allotted by the Lord, we are doing this hard work with sincerity, dedication, and best to my ability, and I will hand over this result to the God. So Krishna says why it is important. If you do that, you don't need to. If these four principles are in our life practically, after seeing the example of Yudhishthir Maharaj, Ranti Dev, Ambarish Maharaj, um, Durvasha Rishi, all these examples basically. So if that mindset is there, you don't even need to wait till your life gets over. This body deteriorates. You don't need to wait for that. You will actually be happy, contented in this material life itself. He says in Shloka 23, what does he say? Can go back to the shloka. Yeah. Shaknoti heva yah shonum prak sharira vimokshanat kam krododbhavam vegam sayukta sa sukhinara. Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. In this world, by checking the force of desire and anger and tolerating the urges of the material senses, then Krishna reaches to the conclusion, which is this shloka we can say. He says that bhog. First we see the translation. A person in full consciousness of me knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities. I'm really sorry, the shlok number is not correct here. It is supposed to be the shlok 29. Let me quickly correct it as well. Just a second. This is our shlok 29. Actually, chapter 5 has 29 shlokas. This is it started with chapter 1 had 44, then chapter 46. Chapter 1 has 46 shloka, then chapter 2 had 72, chapter 3 moved again in 43, chapter 4 had 42, and now chapter 5 is ending with 29 shlokas. So we are trying to take the last shloka as the peace formula. How to establish peace in this very life. What is that? A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. So what does the shloka say? Bhoktaram yajna tapsam sarvaloka maheshwaram suhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim rikshati. Three important things have been stated by Krishna here, and that will help us to get rid of three important miseries. What is that? Anger. The other one is the greed, the attachment, and fear. So when Krishna says ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices, so any path, any destination you try to lead upon, the ultimate beneficiary is who? Krishna. So that will give us the detachment. It will help us to get out of any kind of attachment, because ultimate beneficiary is Krishna. Then Krishna says the second point, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods. So it helps us to lose the mentality of controllership, the proprietorship. When he's saying, I am the lord of all planets and demigods, then it means we don't need to have any kind of fear in our life. Who is the Lord? It is Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. So we don't need to go and ask for my any kind of material benefit. If Krishna wants, it will be there. If Krishna doesn't want, whatsoever we do, it won't be there. So our karma has to be in the place so that the result part is very clear, that ultimate beneficiary is Krishna, ultimate Lord is Krishna, and then the third part comes, well-wisher of all living entities. So if he is the well-wisher of all living entities, we should give up the anger immediately. We should give up the fear immediately. We should give up our attachment immediately, because Krishna doesn't harm anyone. It is our own karma which can or cannot trouble us. So we need to watch our karmas. We need to do our work in devotional mood, dedicating it to the Krishna. And then that nishkam, that consciousness has to be fixed in one single oriented direction at the lotus feet of the Lord. And the four questions which we discussed today basically is the, after knowing this shloka 29, these four questions should be our takeaway for today. What do you do with the results? Hand it over to God. How do you do the work? Hard with sincerity, dedication, best to my ability. Who has allocated the work? What work you do you do? Work allocated by the Lord. And ultimately, I am the servant of the Lord. So we don't need to die to attain the peace. We can rest in peace, RIP. No, we can do it right now. Just that it has to be practiced. It can be practiced. We may have problems, we may get trouble, we might get deviated as well, but let's bring ourselves back in the kind guidance of Bhagavad Gita given by the Lord himself to us through Arjuna. So this is how we will end up actually this chapter 5. We are going to have chapter 6 tomorrow, and this way we have finished 5 chapter. I will just say one announcement which I have been saying for past few days also. After 18 days we will be having the recitation of all 700 shlokas, because I had the queries from some of the audience first day itself that we are not going through all the shlokas. So in 1 hour we cannot go through all the shlokas. We all know it. The limitation of time is there. There are many concepts actually. It's just not the recitation session. It is to understand what we are reciting. So understanding part is being done first. After 18 days we will be going through the entire 700 verses. So anybody interested to recite can WhatsApp me, can do the reply back in the Telegram group, or you can reply here in the comments as well. We can have a separate session, just the interactive session, where we can know who is reciting what, and if there is any confusion about the meters, how to recite it, we can discuss that. So on day 19 we will recite the entire 700 verses. Any questions, there will be a question answer session. Depends where we can have it on Zoom, or we will have it on YouTube live. So if the questions will be self-explanatory, we can have very personal session of Zoom itself, or if needed we will go to the YouTube. So you can feel free to give your commentaries, feel free to give feedbacks, and please try to meditate on these shlokas through the book written by Srila Prabhupada, which is Bhagavad Gita as it is. He has given us wonderful purpose there. So hope to see all of you in chapter 6, session 6 tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai. Anant Koti Vaishnav